Welcome to the Virginia is for Laughers podcast, brought to you by X2 Comedy. If you're looking to get more out of your Shenandoah Valley experience, then this is the podcast for you. You'll meet interesting people, the comedians that perform here, and find out more about what you can do and see. Whether you live here or plan to visit, listen to explore what helps make up our unique slice of heaven. Now here's your host, Dawn Davis Womack.
Hello, Laughers. I'm excited to introduce you to David Berry, a professor of music at Eastern Mennonite University and incoming artistic director of the Shenandoah Valley Bach Festival. David is an active classical pianist whose performances have been featured in venues such as Carnegie Hall, Merkin Hall, the UW World Series at the University of Washington, live broadcasts on WQXR, New York City's only classical radio station. As a performer of new music, he has worked with a number of noted composers. As an avid chamber musician, David has collaborated with members of many of the nation's leading orchestras. David is also an avid improviser of jazz, gospel, and popular contemporary piano styles, and also enjoys composing his own concert arrangements of hymns and pop songs, you name it. He received his Bachelor of Music from the Eastman School of Music, his Master's and Doctorate of Musical Arts degrees in piano performance from the Juilliard School of Performing Arts Conservatory, widely regarded as one of the world's leading drama, music, and dance schools. Welcome to the show, David. It's great to have you on today.
It's such a pleasure to be here. Thank you, Dawn. Thanks for having me.
I am so excited. That is quite the resume as a pianist. I had a lot of fun researching you and listening to you, and I couldn't wait to do this today. So I'm very pumped to share part of your story with the Laughers today. So let's get into it, David. What do you say? Let's do it. This impressive resume of accomplishments as a pianist is way longer than even the intro today. So to me, it feels like you just came out of the womb playing the piano. So my first question is, who introduced you to the piano and when did you realize that you had a gift for playing it?
Not quite out of the womb, exactly, but not that far removed either. I started piano when I was 5 years old. Wow. And actually, a funny story, my parents bought a house, and it came with an old sort of upright piano that, we could either just toss out. They were going to toss it out or said, you can keep it, it's at $50 now for a piano. Right. And then, my dad is he's a blues musician, blues and gospel. Not as a career, but, he loves it and is passionate about it. Been doing that a long time. And so he's actually an electric guitarist, but he knows a couple things on piano. And the first thing I ever learned was What I Say by Ray Charles, a little intro at the beginning, a little blues that you can play with kind of one finger. Yeah.
That's fun.
Yeah, first song I ever learned on the piano. And so from there, we thought, someone needs to take lessons. We've got this piano in the house. So I started with a teacher then at 5 and, continued lessons and things like that. All my lessons were classical, but I grew up playing gospel music and other kinds of things. And yeah, that was sort of my start.
That's amazing. That's really incredible. So the apple doesn't fall too far from the tree.
No, we don't have pianists in the family, but the music's there.
Yeah, the music's there. What do your parents think about all of this, from that upright piano for $50 to where you are today?
Yeah, it's fun because they live here in the Valley too. They moved here about the time I did, so they can come to my concerts and things. Yeah, they've always been supportive. I've never had to have sort of that battle, well, I should go into something else, but I really love this and I want to do the arts or anything like that. They've always just supported it and been happy for, me to make a career in it. So yeah, it's been great.
Oh, I have another great question. I just thought of this. See, I'm a football mom, right? So we're a little loud in the stands, but that's not supposed to happen at piano concerts. Is your mom, does she want to yell out, but she holds it in? What's that experience like for her? I'm really curious about that.
Yeah, that's funny. I mean, I love sports too. So it was sort of like, I played basketball through high school and all of that, and piano too. And so all those things. So, I wouldn't say my mom would necessarily yell out at a concert, but I would say I love both environments. And I think we need more of that in our concert hall. Yeah. So somebody's mom can yell out and I'll be cool with it. Yeah.
That's right. We need some. That would be fun, wouldn't it? Get all excited like a football game and stuff.
I love it.
I might be your first one in your concert that does.
Go for it.
Okay. I'm going to remember you said that. And if anybody gives me any trouble, I'm going to say, David Berry. Yeah, that's right. Said it's okay. And I'm to send you his way.
That's right.
Yeah, your schooling and education background is also incredibly impressive. You have a master's and doctorate from the Juilliard School, and I'm more familiar with the audition process as an actor. So I know that competition is fierce, and I imagine it's just as fierce, if not more so, for music. So I'm curious, what is the audition process like for the musicians, and what was that experience like for you?
Yeah, gosh, that was a good little while ago now. But there is a little bit of a rat race in terms of the audition part of it, right? For anything, that you're trying to do at that sort of a level. There's several rounds, and I don't know how they do it now. In those days, you had to send a recording in, and then they contact you back and say you can come for an audition and send you a list of all the different kinds of things you can play. And so you do that first round, and then very dramatically they posted a list, and then who gets to play in the next round of audition. So it was all of that is definitely nerve wracking, but it's fun. You meet different people from all over the place. I met a guy, I forget where he was from, but somewhere in Eastern Europe. I met a girl from China, and we were waiting outside the room, just for who's going to audition next. And that was sort of all part of the process. And that part of things definitely was, you have to prepare for it. You have to be ready. But it's all, if you kind of looking back on it, it was like, oh man, that was such a great experience. Like the audition itself, not to mention going to the school and all of that. But, I just think you have to do what you can do, do your thing. That's what got you to that point. And so, that's all you can do, and see what happens from there. So, yeah.
Yeah. Do you get nervous before you go out and perform even then? Or did you ever get nervous performing, or have you just done it so long it's just a part of who you are?
Yeah, no, I think, I still get nervous for sure. It's just part of live performance. It's never 100% safe, no matter how long you've been performing, how much you prepare. So that's part of, it's a two-sided coin in a way. It's like, that's what makes it exciting. That's what makes it scary too. But, there's no feeling like it. So, I still get nervous sometimes. But, I think I wouldn't trade it. I think you need that adrenaline rush, at least for me. And I know there were like some super, super famous performers who was like, gosh, that person still gets nervous. And you read about that and think, oh gosh, yeah, well, if they still feel that way, I guess it must be okay, right?
I think so too. Yeah, I feel like that's when you care. You know that you
For
care
sure,
about, you care, for me, and it sounds like for you too, you really care that they're having a great experience,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think,
yeah.
That's kind of the way to get over it, right? Is I'm here to like celebrate with folks,
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. That definitely makes a difference when you get out on stage and perform. That mindset it's a great shift. And yeah, it's just nice to meet a fellow performer and know that I'm not alone.
Right,
so I love that. Yeah. Speaking of performing, this year in April, you also joined as a member of the Gateways Music Festival Orchestra for a historic house debut at Carnegie Hall. The orchestra was comprised entirely of professional classical musicians of African descent. I understand you were also a member of the artistic planning community for this. Where did the idea of doing this originate, and how long did it take for you all to put it together?
Yeah, well, so I first started with the Gateways Festival back when I was a college student at the Eastman School of Music. The founder of the festival, Arminta Adams Humming, is an amazing arts administrator, pianist, and all of that. How I started was I just received an invitation in my mailbox. Do you want to come play on this concert? A concerto, which is kind of like a piece with an orchestra, or you could do it with a second pianist. And I thought, is this thing real? Like, where did this come from? You know, it's like, so anyway, I followed up on it and I did it. And I realized this whole festival existed right there at my college of musicians of African descent, musicians of color. And so that was such an eye-opening experience, you know, to be a part of that. And I've just kind of been with that festival since and served in different roles and performed in and all those things. And it's just grown and grown and grown from there. And so the current director of that festival, Lee Kuntz, is just an amazing arts administrator, and he's kind of taken the festival to the moon. And so that Carnegie Hall debut was really like it was like a new peak for us, a new level for that festival. And yeah, so the idea of it, I feel like had been in the works for a while in terms of what's the next step? Where else can we go? You know, we've had some really great people come in and perform. We've been in some great venues. And then the Carnegie, I believe, you know, Carnegie came to Gateways and said, you know, we'd love to have you come play based on all of the other things we've seen you do. So the idea for like, what do we play? What do we put on the program is sort of, you know, something you think a lot about. And then it was supposed to happen in the fall and there was a COVID cancellation. And then it happened in the spring, in April. So that was great. And originally, you know, in the fall, it would have been great to have at that time, but it turned out to be even better because on that concert, John Batiste played as well, played a composition of his. And then it was like the week before he won like the Grammy for the best album of the year.
Oh my gosh.
That definitely helped. Yeah. So it was amazing. We really put together a program we felt like represented the orchestra well. A lot of composers of color. We did Lift Every Voice and Sing with the whole orchestra. Like I said, John played, and we did Brahms too. So it was like a great program. Yeah, great program.
Okay, see, now I'm out of this world a little bit, so I'm not as familiar with John Baptiste. So can you tell us a little bit about him for the laughers out there who may not be familiar with his name?
Yeah, he is a popular musician right now. He's actually someone you might be familiar with, Stephen Colbert. Do you know that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's the band leader for his late night show.
Oh, cool.
But sort of has made his name doing a lot of other things too in music nowadays, and especially has blown up a lot this year. So yeah.
Oh yeah. See, maybe it's just me that's out of touch. That's possible.
Well, you know, I couldn't tell you all the great comedians out there. So
there we go.
All got our things.
We can all help each other learn more about each other's worlds. I think that's right. Great. I love that. Well, that had to be an extraordinary experience when it actually came to fruition. So if you could put or paint a word picture that best describes the vibe and feeling of this historic debut, what would it be? The word picture and the vibe.
First word that comes to mind is just special. Like being there on that stage, you know, we all went in and everyone before, you know, everything happened with the concert, you know, everyone's taking their selfies on the stage, and to think, oh, some artist I really love stood right here in this spot, you know, is always amazing when you go to a place like that. But the concert was sold out. So, you know, just being there on stage, looking at a sold out Carnegie Hall. And then one really special part of it, we had a portion in this arrangement of Lift Every Voice and Sing where the whole audience sang too. And so to just look out on a full Carnegie Hall and be singing that all together and playing with the orchestra, it was just a lot of people got emotional at that moment. So it's just special. That's the word that comes to mind.
Ooh, that just gave me goosebumps just envisioning that everyone in the audience was singing with you all. Did I hear that correctly?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh, that's great. Is that on tape anywhere that we could see that?
I think they just released the audio of it.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it might be on Carnegie's site. I think.
Okay.
So the video's not out there, but the audio is. So.
Okay. Still, that's something. I would take it. I would love to listen to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got to tell you, preparing for this interview, I'm realizing I do need to get out there more and experience more classical music, David. I need to do it. Oh my gosh.
We'd love to have you. Yeah.
Yeah, I've got to do it. I mean, just this past June, it was the 30th year of the Shenandoah Valley Bach Festival, which is right here in Harrisonburg. I mean, I think I've heard people mention it before, but I had no idea. I thought maybe they were traveling somewhere else in the valley. So this is really exciting. I'm asking myself, where have I been? And I need to do something about this. So can you tell us more about it and what you're most excited about as the incoming artistic director?
Yeah, well, the Shenandoah Valley Bach Festival, actually this past festival, so a couple weeks ago, we just celebrated our 30th anniversary. It's been here 30 years. The original founder of it is a longtime EMU professor, retired actually just around the time I got here, but we're good friends and play together a lot of different things. Ken Nafziger. So he's been the conductor, the visionary behind the whole thing from the beginning, and the conductor of the festival. He'll conduct the orchestra too. So it's just been I think it's been described as a jewel in the crown of Harrisonburg.
Yes.
So yeah, that's sort of a quote that stuck with the festival, and it's just explored so many different kinds of things. You think sometimes with a classical music festival, you can expect just this one thing, and especially with a Bach festival, and Bach is just sort of the launching pad. So there will be a lot of music by Bach, but he himself was sort of interested in so many other composers and styles. And there's this crazy story of he once walked like 200 miles just to hear some other organist play, like on foot and all of this.
Oh my goodness.
So, yeah. There's like all these little funny stories in classical music once you get in there and sort of find out that kind of stuff. So anyway, it's not just Bach's music, but the spirit of which how Bach approached music and life and art, which is just to integrate and explore all kinds of things. So Cuban music has been a part of this festival in various ways. Gospel music, a lot of sort of singing, collective singing, audience and choirs and all of that kind of a thing. And this also branched out into doing like music with bluegrass musicians and all of that. We had a great spring benefit down at the Magpie Diner and had all kinds of different groups, including, some Bach, some bluegrass, some of this and that. So yeah, we're really always been an innovative festival, and definitely that's what we want to continue.
Wow. So I'm so glad we're talking about this, because I just envisioned it was all music concerts, but I'm hearing it's a lot more than that. It's different types of music, but also it sounds like talks on topics related to Bach, right? So you can go to an informational session to learn. Right?
There's not every year something like that, but that's definitely been part of it. And I think, we'll have more things kind of like that too. But as you introduce different kinds of music and styles and things like that, I feel like communication is really important to, help people have some handles for what they're going to hear, and listen to and experience. Yeah. So yeah, music concerts are a big part of it, but the formats and how you do it and how you talk about it and where and when and all of that can be very different. This past year, for example, we had a kids concert and one of our violinists dressed up as Johann Sebastian Bach out on the EMU Plaza, and they sort of had a Kids Day and Bach walking around, welcoming people playing violin and all of that too. So,
I love that theatrical piece. That's so beautiful. When you say kids concert, what ages are we talking about? I'd love to go see that.
Oh, that one was for elementary ages. Yeah,
okay.
Elementary school kids. And then, we have our sort of big concerts in Lehman Auditorium, with pieces for choir and orchestra and all of that too. But, exploring, like we said, that was sort of the spirit of Bach, is exploration and integration of all kinds of things. And that's sort of what we're planning to keep on doing. And so you never know what it'll look like next.
Evolution. I love it. I'm going to look forward to checking this out. So you can go to what you want to in the festival. You can pick and choose, I guess. It's multi-day.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the summer festival is sort of like the big, main thing that happens in terms of what people think of with the Bach Festival. That's about a week long. So there will be 3 big main concerts in the auditorium. But throughout the week, there are noon concerts at Asbury Church downtown. And those will feature all the musicians in a smaller context, 3 and 4 at a time, playing chamber music with all kinds of different things. And then there are some of these other special events, like the last few years, we've been doing a Christmas concert, but it's not your typical Christmas concert. We'll do like jazz and, some classical things. And we've had like African music and Jewish music as a part of it. And a lot of like free improv and things like that. And then, so we'll have other kinds of events throughout the year too, in addition to the summer festival. Yeah.
Oh, and are you performing in some of this?
Yeah. So,
okay.
The Christmas concert, especially, I have fun with because we do so many different kinds of styles of things, and just a lot of it is improvised and stuff, and I love doing that. So.
Oh, yeah, that's exciting. Yeah, you're quite the improviser, as we've talked about in your intro, of the jazz and the gospel and popular contemporary piano styles. What did you learn to improvise?
Yes, interesting. I took classical piano lessons all my life, basically. But I had always been on the side, just tinkering and exploring and doing other things. So, like I said, the first song I learned was by Ray Charles. And I kind of grew up playing gospel music and the blues and jamming with my dad and all of that kind of thing. So I just sort of learned it like the old fashioned way, like listening and playing and jamming and all of that kind of thing. And then I got to college and start hanging out with more jazz majors. And we would just go in the practice room and I'd play some classical thing and they'd play some jazzy thing. And they say, how did you do that? And I'd say, what was that crazy chord you just played there? And we just kind of like learned off of each other. And I feel like my whole journey with improvisation has been just kind of having open mind and open ears to just pick up new things. I think of it more as being a collector than, something I've sat down and said, now I want to learn to do this or that. It was just like YouTube videos and hanging out with people and jamming and parties and all kinds of things. So, yeah.
Yeah, I could do a bit with that with comedy, but music, I'm going to have to leave that to you, David.
Yeah, well, maybe we should do some kind of comedy thing with live music improv or something.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Yeah, there was a little bit, I can't remember. It was Court Square Theater. I can't remember what the event was. It was before the pandemic. And there was a musician on, and I was right before me, and I was hosting also. But the way that we transitioned, there was just this like natural thing that came out between the music and the comedy.
Cool.
So it would be fun to explore that. It was a lot of fun. I had unexpected fun too. So that is a good idea. Maybe we'll have to think about this, David. Yeah. Maybe. So. Yeah. Speaking of working with people, I'm not in your world, right? We've talked about that. You're an accomplished piano artist. And you've worked with composers, and I'm sure there are other unmusical or just not in those world kind of laughers. How do pianists and composers work together exactly? What is that relationship look like?
Yeah, well, I have, worked with composers in various contexts. Some where you're playing pieces they have already written, some where it's sort of hot off the press, and the first time they're hearing it live is when you're playing it for them. Some where some of the times it's been where they're in another city and then you make a little recording and send it, and then they send notes back, or they're on the phone listening and telling you things. But I find that oftentimes it's still collaborative in the moment of preparing for the performance. There are things they want to change or things that don't work, or you have questions. And I find, some composers I like, well, I put it on paper. That's what it is. I find in most cases it's sort of a fun collaborative process, unlike anything else, where, the performance might even be 2 days away or the next day or something, and you're still changing things and tweaking things based on what they hear. So yeah, I think from the performer side, you're always thinking about how can I make the piece come alive? And sometimes the composer doesn't even always know best. You might know, well, here that doesn't quite sound as good, so maybe we could try this. And depending on the person, you might want to be careful how you phrase that kind of thing.
You froze a little bit.
From the side of being a composer, it's sort of like you're sending your baby out into the world and, into someone else's hands. And so it's quite a vulnerable process too. So, yeah. Yeah,
that's interesting because I don't write or play music, but we write and perform jokes, and that's a dance too. Punching up material and swapping out words for to play it up, or do word economy and cut stuff out so you can get to the punchline quicker. Sounds similar in that process.
I think it is. Yeah, the same. I mean, do you have that feeling too? I guess of like,
yeah.
I wonder if this joke's gonna land.
Yeah. My husband, he's a comic too, and we can help each other and like listen to it. Yeah. And like, no, you might need to work on that premise a little bit more, huh? Goes both ways, in fairness.
Yeah.
That's fun. Okay. I like that. That's very insightful. And you are also teaching music here at EMU. And I'm curious, what is your teaching philosophy? That's part one of the question. Part two, what advice do you give students today that are looking to have a career in music?
Yeah, I think in terms of my teaching philosophy is to just explore. And I think that's the same as my advice for students too. There are things you can learn on a syllabus, and I'll certainly teach those to you. But the most exciting way to learn, and I think the most engaging way for you as a unique individual, is to explore. So no matter what area of study it is, what are the things that aren't on the syllabus, or what are the experiences outside of just what's on paper that enhance your understanding of something all the more? And that's kind of what I try to bring to my students. We'll have sort of, here's the lecture for the day. But if something comes up in the middle of my lecture, I'm happy to kind of go off track and then go into all kinds of other things I feel like supplement or help, and kind of make connections between things. We're talking about comedy and music and some of the relationships there that you can see. There's always sort of these underlying principles behind multiple things, and understanding those things behind necessarily multiple disciplines or art forms or concepts is what I'm really interested in. So I often bring in other kinds of art and other kinds of styles of music and other things with my students, and sort of relate Bach to modern songwriters and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's really incredible. So then what advice do you give? So that's your teaching philosophy. Does that transition into your advice for them to make a career in music? Or
Yeah. Like I said, exploration. From the teaching side, for me, it's not all that different than from when I was on the student side of things. Yeah, you're responsible for a little bit more for sure, but just the idea of exploring, like, don't box yourself in or let yourself be put into a box. There's certainly things, like you're saying, you have to learn how to write a good premise or work on sort of the technical things.
Yeah.
There is, all of that in music too. Like, you got to practice your scales. You got to kind of like know what's going on, but like, tinker too. Don't forget that. That's so important on the side, like when I'm practicing some big piece, and I have to focus, I'll just like do that for 10, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, maybe an hour. And then it's like, I've just got to do something else so I can get back in this mindset and stay there. So I'll just improvise, just kind of jam, make up whatever, just play. And I feel like that's all a part of learning. Like, it makes the whole session better. So I feel like explore, try to do things others haven't done. Yeah. Even as a student.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, you just mentioned time, and it made me think, oh my goodness, how much time do you spend playing the piano, would you say, per day or per week? I'm kidding.
Yeah, well, back in those Juilliard days when I was young and ignorant and had no, responsibilities. Not quite true, but, you could put in 5, 6, 7 hours on a day, especially if something was coming up. Now there's a little bit more going on, a few more balls to juggle and life. And so, if you put in that time early on with all of that stuff, the scales and things, you can kind of fall back on it a little bit. So you got to stay, you got to keep up your chops and everything, but I don't quite have to sit there and do 7 hours a day like I used to, and can kind of be more efficient and economical. And sometimes it's like I have to hit a 1 a.m. practice session now and then between things and, all of that kind of stuff now to fit everything around life. But you find your ways, and as you get older, you learn to just be more efficient, right? I might have practiced 6 hours and then like did 20 minutes of good practice and the rest was, whereas now it's like, okay, if I have a half hour, I definitely know what I want to do now, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I like that. That's really good. Yeah. Now, EMU is known for its piece building, and I understand you are integrating that with music making. How so?
Yeah, that's always been an important part of EMU's sort of ethos. It's just a part of everything at EMU. But yeah, in the music department here, we've been integrating that for sure. We have a great professor in our department, Benjamin Berge, who's does a lot in that field, and also is our orchestral director here and our choir director too. And so we worked on putting together a music and piece building major. So that's a part of our program now in the last couple of years. But then we'll also put on programs that sort of incorporate that too. So the last 3 or 4 years, we've been sort of revamped our annual gala concerts, which feature all of our groups, our choirs and jazz ensembles and all of those things, and sort of tried to make it a big spectacular of sorts. And so for the first one, we did a big sort of choral work around themes of peace and all of that. And then we also brought in a friend of mine from back in my college days who's a singer in the Phantom of the Opera and at the Met Opera, and she came. And so we did this big piece composition about peace. And then she sang some arias in the second half, changed outfits into something sparkly, and did jazz things with the big band. And so, yeah, we've had other years where we've kind of done sort of some peace-themed big choral work, and then brought in other guest artists who've done something really interesting. Last year, we had The String Queens, a group from DC who do all kinds of like pop music and stuff like that and classical. And so we called that one Peace and Joy, and had a really cool poster that turned from like a dove in the sky into like all of these fantastic colors and everything like that. So we're integrating it into a lot of different things we do here at EMU.
That's really good. Now I followed most of that, but I don't know what an aria is. What is an aria?
Oh yeah, an aria is just it's basically a song, like from an opera. It's just a number.
Okay.
Like if you were listening to a musical, a song that comes from a musical is a number. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Keep it simple. That's a good. That's good to go to. Keep it simple. Well, that's great. If laughers want to see you perform live or online, where can you direct them to best see and listen to some of your work?
Yeah, well, a lot of things I do here in the Valley with EMU would sort of be in the EMU media channels. So the EMU Facebook page live streams all of our concerts here. So you can definitely find things there and on our events page. And then, my own Facebook for some other performances. I'll post when I've got things coming up and all of that stuff. So I love, you can find me in all kinds of different contexts. I've been playing a lot of street concerts these days where we've had pianos out in the street. Like we did a fundraiser for Ukraine at the Bowl of Good. And so I played a bunch of like New Orleans jazz on a piano they had down there. And we do something at the library out in front of their downtown and they have a little, almost like a little performance space. Right in front. And so one year I was passing by and I saw it and I was like, I think that's like going to be like a great concert space. And so I approached them and said, can we do a concert here? And so we did it, and we've been doing it ever since. And Weitzel's, the piano shop in town, has been great. They bring down a piano, just put it on the street, and we just go at it. So there's stuff in the concert halls, stuff on the streets, but it's all out there. We're here.
That's really great. Yeah, you're talking about downtown Harrisonburg's library, right? Okay. Mm-hmm. That's really cool. How long you guys been doing the strings on the streets?
That's good. I'm gonna be like our new marketing person. Yeah, for naming our events. I started with like the Harrisonburg Music Teachers Association. I was the president of that group for a little while, which is like piano teachers and stuff. And we were gonna have a concert, and we were trying to figure out. I had contacted our like downtown Renaissance, which gives grants to do events downtown. And I was looking for a performance space and trying to think of it. And on my way to their facility, I passed the library and saw this space they had out front. And I thought, I think that's actually the space we want there. And so that was the first outdoor one we did. And then since then, we've done some with our music department faculty, and our theater students did some scenes out on the street and all of that. I think our next one will be in later August. And we'll have kind of faculty members and all of that performing out there on the street. And as a part of some other events we've had downtown, we've kind of, there's been like different iterations of it, but bringing an acoustic piano out on the street always brings a smile to people's faces.
Yeah. Yeah, I know it does, doesn't it? No, that's really great. Well, as we wrap up here, I think you mentioned your Facebook. Is that the best way if someone wants to send you a message or whatever and get in contact with you?
I love to hear from people, so you can just reach out to me. I'd love to be in touch.
Okay. That's awesome. Well, thank you so much, David. It's been a joy spending time with you today, talking about all things classical music and beyond with you. I've learned so much, and I'm inspired to listen to much more classical music now. Thank you again for coming on, David.
It was a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
You bet. And laughers, be sure to check out the next Shenandoah Valley Bach Festival at sbbachfestival.org. That's sbbachfestival.org. We'll be sure to put this website in the show notes for you as well, so you can check it all out. And lastly, and most importantly, thanks for tuning in, laughers. Out of all the podcasts out there, you picked us. and we think that's pretty darn special, just like you. Until next time, keep smiling. Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Virginia is for Laughers podcast, brought to you by X2 Comedy. We'll be dropping a new podcast every Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, so check back for another uplifting episode. Come to an X2 Comedy show or let us bring a show to you. To find out more, head to x2comedy.com. Be sure to share us with a friend. Until next time, cheers.